All right, guys. So I really wanted to talk about this because this raises a lot of red flags and alarms. Because now we're getting into territory where these companies feel like they want to control every aspect of the product that we give them money for, and then we have less ownership of it. So let's get into it. So this is an opinion piece on that Park Place. And of course, I will leave a link to the article in the description. But it says new Sony bad actor detection patent feels a lot like a digital social credit score. And it goes on to say that protecting kids online is a goal we all support. I do agree with that. We should be protecting our kids online. Nobody wants young players harassed, bullied, or exposed to toxic behavior in games like Minecraft or Fortnite. Now, I will argue, while I do agree with protecting kids online, at the same time, we do need to teach them that the world out there is not, sunshine, rainbows, and lollipops, okay? That the world out there can be harsh. And I do feel like kids do need to learn that to a certain extent. However, I agree that we do still need to protect them from a lot of the creepos that are out there on the internet. But anyway, it says that's why tools like muting, blocking, and reporting exist. I agree. And they're essential. But a new Sony bad actor detection patent floats an approach that goes far beyond moderation, and while I fully agree with this, so we're going to get into more detail. According to a recently published filing, the Sony bad actor patent outlines a system that tracks and scores players across online multiplayer games based on how frequently they exhibit negative behavior, quote unquote, if a player crosses a predetermined threshold by, for example, engaging in inappropriate chat or griefing. Sony's system could automatically limit their access to online features until they improve their behavior. If they really wanted to do that, couldn't they just put them in some sort of a section where it's like, okay, you want to play with a whole bunch of other guys that are willing to do this? Fine, do that. But even with that, I can still see a lot of problems with that. At first glance, it sounds like a reasonable step towards cleaner gaming spaces, but dig deeper, and what Sony is proposing starts to resemble something far more dystopian, a corporate-run social credit score for gamers. The patent filed in October 2024 and published on May 22nd, 2025, details an automated behavior detection system that evaluates player through frequency markers. The more often you break the rules or are perceived to, and that's important, I'm going to get to that, the more likely you are flagged as a bad actor. Sony's system wouldn't just mute or warn you, it could restrict your online gameplay entirely, and while a one-time mistake might not push you past the limit, the system is built to compile and track your behavior over time, forming a persistent profile. To me, that is an invasion of privacy. Now, I know a lot of people would argue that, well, you're online, there's really no privacy. And to that end, I can agree to a certain extent. However, let's just say you're playing with your friends most of the time. Now, me personally, when I play online, I'm playing with just my buddies, right? Otherwise, I'm playing single player games. I don't like just playing with randos. I used to, but I don't do that too much anymore. That kind of long-term surveillance and behavior grading isn't just moderation, it's control. I 100% control. That's what it comes down to, control. They want to control the consumer and what they're doing with the very product they paid for. And once a system like that is embedded into the fabric of multiplayer gaming, who decides what's toxic? That is a very great question. Who does decide that? What qualifies as unacceptable behavior is in context dependent on or purely algorithmic. Exactly. Like you see it on the internet all the time. What people perceived as bad behavior might not necessarily be bad behavior. They just don't like it. Who's to say that someone at Sony just doesn't like a particular person? Let's say that you are someone who does YouTube, or you're an influencer, or you've made an opinion about something online. Now all of a sudden someone at Sony's like, I don't like that guy, so I'm gonna limit. I'm gonna increase the score here and limit their ability. Hey, you know what? It sounds far-fetched, but is it? Ask yourself, is it really? If this sounds eerie familiar, that's because it is. China's social credit system operates on many of the same core principles Sony outlines in this patent, such as tracking behavior, assigning scores, rewarding compliance, and punishing deviation. In China, this means citizens can be barred from flights, jobs, or even dating apps if they fall below a government defined threshold. Imagine how scary that would be to have here. You know what I mean? While Sony's version applies to video games, the structure is strikingly similar: automated oversight tied to user behavior, with seemingly no transparency, no appeal process, and no room for nuance. Now, I'm not going to really go too much more into the rest of this article. I'll leave the link in below. I just kind of want to comment a few last things on this. This is very dangerous if we really allow this kind of thing to happen. You know that old saying, you can, when you give an inch, they'll take a mile. That is exactly what this is. And we've seen these companies take more than their fair share of miles. And if we allow this thing, that people need to speak up and make their voices heard on this, because this is a very dangerous, slippery slope that if we allow to happen for the sake of what? Safety. When, in my opinion, the safety of kids online should be up to the parents. We've got all of these tools available to us to make sure the kids are safe online, that there's almost no excuse to be letting these corporations do that job for us. That's just my opinion. You can take it or leave it however you want, but that's my opinion. It's our job, nobody else's. So yes, this needs to be talked about more. More people need to know about this, because I will, if Sony were to implement something like this, just like I said in my Nintendo video, I won't support Sony. I absolutely will not support this kind of Big Brother monitoring system behavior. Won't do it. And I'm just tired of all these overreach that these private corporations think that they can just go ahead and try to do. But let me know what your thoughts and opinions are on this in the comments below. I would love to hear from you. And as always, if you did enjoy the content here, please consider a like and a subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace out.